Welcome to tonight's live stream. I'm going to get started in a minute. I just need to let everybody know that the live stream is going on right now. What's going on, Edict? What's going on, Cool Gent 87? I am going to get started with tonight's live stream. And the topic of tonight's live stream is the demonization of the black man and the black woman. And in order for me to really break this down, I have to define what demonization is. Now, demonization is defined as the portrayal of something wicked and threatening. And ever since black people have come to these United States, your white racist has made efforts to demonize the black man and the black woman, presenting them as something as wicked, threatening, and evil. And this was done ever since, again, black people were brought to this country, and they always tried to make the black man appear to be this demon, this black boogeyman, ever since the slave era. And this demonization started out with propaganda by your white supremacists saying that the black man is some sort of animal, the black man is derived from apes, and this propaganda was designed to demonize the black man so that they could dehumanize the black man, so that they could use the black man as slave labor and use this as justification for enslaving Africans. Now, this was the foundation of this demonization of black men and black women, this propaganda created by white supremacists in slavery, and they wanted to, again, demonize the black man first and then demonize the black woman so that they could have that justification for enslaving black people. And they wanted to go out of their way to put this type of programming in black people's minds so that they would not see themselves as human beings, but they would see themselves as less than being human. So that's what demonization has done to the black mind back during slavery. And as we've gone through the centuries, this demonized propaganda has been manifested in things like the minstrel images of the 1930s, numerous articles and books that were written to say that blacks were inferior, and these Jim Crow laws of the South. All of those things were meant to demonize the black man and the black woman and make black men and women believe that they were less than human in comparison to white people who were presented as the ideal of what a human being was to be, and that no one should be like a black man or a black woman. Because if we look at most of the media out here today, they always try to present the black male image and the black female image as less than human. And they do that because they want to demonize the image of black men and black women so that they will appear to be inhuman, so that people can have justification for discriminating against black people. So, this demonization is about taking away a black man and a black woman's humanity. Because if you strip someone of their humanity, then you have validation and justification for doing harm to that person, and you have justification for denying that person equal access in a society. So that's what the foundations of demonization have done to the black man and the black woman. Is when you have white supremacists out here demonizing the black man and the black woman, this is what they use to justify things like your police brutality and to promote all of these ideas of justifying violence against black men and black women, and for black men and black women to be denied an opportunity to be a part of society. Now, this demonization, it started with white supremacy, but a lot of black people over the last 50 years have not seen the damage that this demonization has done to the mind of the black man and done to the mind of the black woman. Because when you take a critical examination of this demonization and its impact on the mind of the black man and the black woman, you can see how devastating it has been to the minds of black men and your black women. Now, this demonization really has started to impact the black male mind and the black female mind over the last 50 years in very troubling ways. Now, after the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, we started to see a very troubling turn for this whole demonization campaign. Now, this demonization campaign, it was turned from white people hating black people and seeing black white people as less than human to black people seeing themselves as less than human. And this is what was really troubling about this whole demonization agenda, is that these days it's not white people seeing black people as less than human. It is now black people seeing themselves as less than human and seeing themselves as monsters and seeing themselves as enemies of each other. And this all started, I believe, back in the late 1960s with the black woman embracing the feminist movement and the agenda of feminists because they wanted to be more like white women. And it also started with your black man embracing this pimp culture that was being promoted in black communities, where they were going to be these pimps and so-called players, and this was being promoted to the black man. Meanwhile, the feminist movement, which was being out here promoted, was promoting this idea that a black woman could be more like a white woman, and she could go out here and believe that the black man was the one oppressing her, and that she could find independence by herself in society. So you had both the black man and the black woman being taken on these two different roads, where they were being told that one was where the black woman was being told by the white black man, I mean the black woman was being told by the white feminist that her man was no good, her man was evil, and that she needed to get away from her man. And then we had the pimp culture being promoted to the black man, and the pimp culture was telling the black man that his woman was a whore, his woman was less than, his woman was no good, and that all his woman was good for was sex. So both the black man and the black woman were buying into these agendas, which were designed to demonize the black man in the eyes of the black woman and demonize the black woman in the eyes of the black woman in the eyes of the black man. And because both of them saw each other not as people, this is what created, as I believe, a perception in the minds of black men and black women where they weren't seeing each other as human beings. And because they didn't see each other as human beings, they didn't see a black person as lovable, a black person as someone who is just like them, someone who deserves respect, and someone who needs to be treated like a human being. And when you have people who don't see each other as human beings, they believe they are justified in destroying each other. And this is what led to the, as I believe, the complete breakdown of the American black family, because when your black man does not see a woman as someone he loves and respects, this is how he can go out and have illegitimate children and then walk away from those children. And when your black woman does not see herself as her man as valuable, she does not have respect for that man, and she doesn't see him as somebody she can trust. So she believes that she can get her needs met primarily better by the welfare state and get that her needs met by that welfare state instead of trusting in the man that God gave her. And when you have people demonized, then what they do is instead of them fighting the foundation of white supremacy, what they do is they start fighting each other. And this is what led to the decline of your black communities in the 1960s and the 1970s as we had the welfare state coming in and again further pushing the propaganda of demonizing the black man. And what they didn't understand is they were using the black woman as the bludgeon to demonize the black man, but the black man was also demonizing the black woman because he was buying into this pimp and player culture. And in the pimp and player culture, they don't see men don't see women as women. They see women as these tricks that they're out here trying to get, and they're looking for notches in their belt, and they're not looking for a wife to build a family with. They're basically looking to be going out here and getting as many women as they want and thinking that getting this social currency where they get is with as many women as they want is something more acceptable than being a husband, being a father, and being a head of household. It all becomes all about being this player who goes out here and uses women. But again, this is promoting a demonic mindset in the mind of the black man, where instead of him seeing a value in black women, he starts seeing a value in just using women. Thank you, Gary, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. If you want to donate to the super chat, you can do that as well. And if you want to donate to my Patreon, you can do that. I'll leave a link to that here. And if you want to donate to the Cash App, I've already put a link. I'll put another link in there again. But they have them demonizing the black woman. And if you demonize, what they're doing is they make the black woman look like a bad woman. And they see her as this slut and this hoe. And because they see her that way, they don't see her as a person they want to build a family with. They don't see her as someone they want to have as a wife. And they just see women as people they can use and be disposable. And your black woman also starts seeing herself the same way because she, instead of her seeing a man, as a husband that she can build with, she sees her black man as some sort of utility to be used as a resource. And this is where demonization is extremely dangerous, because instead of people seeing each other as human beings, they see each other as tools, and they see people as just somebody they can use. And that's how we lost black love in the black community, because when people start buying into the idea of demonization, they don't see people as human beings that have value or worth. They instead see people as tools and utilities they can use to move themselves ahead. And that's not the way God wanted people to be, because under the Word of God, He wants us to love our neighbors as ourselves, and He wants us to love the Lord with all our heart, soul, and spirit. But when you have people who have a demonized frame of thinking, they dehumanize people, and instead of them loving people as they would love themselves and loving the Lord like they would with all their heart, soul, and spirit, they love seeing a way to get over on people, and they love using people to get their personal gain. And what we have in the black community right now is a demonized mindset, and this demonized mindset is one of the things that it laid the foundation for the fuel for the propaganda that was promoting this divide between the black man and the black woman. Now, the demonized mindset again started with white supremacy, but it was also reinforced by a lot of propaganda. And that propaganda was things like your Alice Walker's Color Purple, which demonized the image of black men. And books like that were designed to program the black woman's mind to see the black man as some sort of monster, something similar to the black brute back in the days of your Jim Crow. Now, the black brute was designed by white supremacists to be this image of this sexually obsessed black man who is obsessed with sex and is obsessed with having sex, has no respect for authority, no respect for values, and does not care about anything. And that's what Alice Walker wanted to repackage in her book, The Color Purple. And that's also what she did when she promoted Zora Neale Hurston's work and misinterpreted it in books like Their Eyes Are Watching God. She promoted the idea that the black man was some sort of monster. And we also got that in other forms of media, where you got your black man demonized in many of the TV shows back then. And we also got your black man demonized in other forms of art and literature. Again, the pimp culture that was promoted in books like Your Holloway House. Thank you again, Andrew Finley, for the donation. And I'm going to leave the links to the Cash App and the Patreon. But they promoted this in media to put an idea in black people's minds that this is the image of black manhood. This is the image of what black manhood is supposed to be. But again, that image was designed to put an idea in black women's minds that their man was bad, especially when you compared the images of black men and your black women to the images of your white men and your white women. Because in mainstream media, they always presented the white man as some sort of ideal. He was always presented as good. He was always presented as right. He was always presented as righteous. And the white woman was always presented as this pinnacle of beauty, this beautiful woman, this great ideal of beauty, this woman of great virtue. She was always promoted as that image of womanhood. Meanwhile, you have this pimp culture being promoted, and then you have this repackaging of the sapphire of the angry black woman. And then you have this image of the independent black woman, which was promoted in shows like Julia in the late 60s and early 70s, which again was designed to show, oh, a black man can't take care of you, but a good white people will be able to do this for you. And because you see the black man as less than, again, demonizing his image in the eyes of the black woman's mind, so that the black woman will sit there and say, oh, this black man is no good. Meanwhile, you have the pimp culture going on and them promoting this black exploitation, which promotes the idea that the black woman is some sort of monster, demonizing them both in each other's minds. Now, as time went on, we got this demonization continuing to be promoted on television shows like the Oprah Winfrey Show. And on the Oprah Winfrey Show, this is where we got the demonization of the black man ramped up and ratcheted up. Because every almost every episode of the Oprah Winfrey Show for over 25 years, we got to see a black woman telling the world about no good black men, no good trifling black men, and telling us that black men were nothing more than cheaters, nothing more than liars, nothing more than bums. And as Oprah Winfrey opened the floodgates for presenting this image and idea of an irresponsible, reckless, egregious, and dysfunctional black man, we had black women buying this up, this propaganda, and believing it to be true. And this went on for years. And then as this was going on, we had authors like Terry McMillan talking about no good black men. And this was all promoted in her books like Waiting to Exhale that were never challenged and deconstructed by people with a good understanding of American literature. Because when you deconstruct a book like Terry McMillan's Waiting to Exhale and the propaganda promoting the idea of the no good black man, you start to see the flaws in her argument about this no good black man, because she sits there and talks about this no good black man. But when you read the book, you see that many of the women were having problems in finding this so called good man because of the choices that they made. I mean, if you look at Robin, she was out here being an adulteress. If you look at Bernadine, she had mental health problems. If you look at Savannah, she was just an extremely arrogant and full of herself woman who literally was willing to make a moral compromise. And if you look at Gloria, she was so caught up in her business and what she wanted that she was not thinking about things as related to values and character. But that narrative wasn't promoted on TV shows like Oprah Winfrey, Ricky Lake, Jenny Jones, and many other 1990s talk shows which made efforts to demonize the black man. All they talked about was no good, trifling black men. And as the 90s went on and we had Jerry Springer and Maury coming in, we further got more demonization of the black man in media by them talking about this whole "you're not the father" on many of these talk shows, where again, this is about demonizing the black man, and it's also about low-key demonizing the black woman, because we have the black woman being presented as this loose woman who just goes around sleeping with various guys and has no real understanding of who the father is. So on both ends, on all of this propaganda that people are imbibing, we are getting a picture of black people that again presents them in a negative light, presents them in a demonized light, and makes people look at black men and black women and not see responsible, conscientious human beings, but we see people who are at the bottom of society and should be seen as the bottom of society, because this media is being designed to program an idea in black people's minds and designed to program an idea to make you see a black person as one, less than, and then two, make us see a black person as somebody who should not be the model for anything, and three, somebody that should be seen as an enemy, not only by your white and non-black society, but should also be seen as an enemy by black society. Supremo, what do I think about Richard Wright's Native Son. That book is another piece of propaganda designed to demonize the image of the black man, and it is a textbook narrative on the black brute. Basically, Richard Wright was writing that book to pander to white people, and your Richard Wright was one of the most self-hating black people out here. I mean, your Richard Wright, he always made it where all of his stories presented you with this demonized image of this black man, and that the only way for this man to be able to be a part of society was to be taken out of it and be killed. So if you look at a lot of Richard Wright's narratives, they were extremely dysfunctional. Moreover, when you look at Richard Wright, he was a very dysfunctional individual. Your Richard Wright was out here married to a white woman and had a biracial child. And he really was not about black empowerment in his literature. He was all about pushing and promoting a white supremacist narrative in his books so that he could gain fame and acclaim at the expense of black people by pushing the narrative that made white people feel comfortable. So your Richard Wright was never someone who was about black empowerment. He was always acclaimed because he promoted the demonized image of black people that made white people feel comfortable. He was all about promoting the demonization of the black man as this brute. So that's something that your Richard Wright was notorious for doing. But when it comes down to this demonization propaganda has really, in the last couple of decades, has gotten worse. And from what I've seen with all of this media going on out here, it's even what makes it worse is that it's not just white people promoting these propaganda and things like this media promoting all of this interracial relationships between black women and white men, like in your commercials and your TV shows. It is also being promoted here on social media. And when I look at the videos I see on social media, I find them to be quite troubling because a lot of the videos I see on social media show me how this 50 years of promoting the demonization of black men and black women have really damaged a lot of the minds of brothers and sisters out here. A lot of this gender war YouTube that I've seen over the last decade, this is just, it shows how the programming has taken to the minds of many brothers and sisters out here, because you got black men and black women who they've taken in all of this propaganda regarding demonization. And because they've taken in this propaganda, they now see your black woman as an enemy. And then you have black women who see black men as an enemy. And because they see each other as enemies, they fire rhetoric at each other, blaming each other for the problems in the black community. And they blame each other for the problems, throwing these salvos at each other. And when you take a critical examination of the salvos that are being thrown at each other, your black man and black woman, with all of those gender war videos, some of which are still being produced today, they literally sound like white supremacists and white nationalists and Ku Klux Klansmen when you listen to a lot of their talking points. And I've listened to a lot of the talking points on both sides, and I can see how that demonization propaganda has affected a lot of the minds of black men and black women on social media, and how they're sitting there after imbibing so many of these videos that it has literally twisted their perception to the point where they're sitting there and believing that black women are bad. You have a lot of black men believing black women are bad. Then you have a lot of black women believing black men are bad. And when you look at both sides, they are literally gone with this demonization to the point where they can now justify hating their opposite gender. But when you look at this hatred of the opposite gender, It's just plain old self-hatred. So your white supremacist is out here with this black media programming black people to hate themselves and to preach the hatred of each other. Because when you listen to the rhetoric talking about no good black men and ratchet black women all day long, and you sit there and you watch dozens of these videos every day, and these videos become like echo chambers, then they have an effect on the black mind, and they have you both hating each other, fighting each other. And as you're hating each other and fighting each other, guess who wins at the end? It's white supremacists are sitting there winning at the end, because if you two are fighting each other, then what they are doing is they win by default, because in many cases, this is what your white supremacist wants. They want to see black men and black women hating each other. They want to see black men and black women fighting against each other, because in the business of white supremacy, war, it's all about war, and war is about profits. And they make their profits by selling both the black man and the black woman the guns and the butter to annihilate themselves. And as they're annihilating themselves, they eliminate themselves, and they prevent themselves from being competition to your white man and his economic system. So what they will do is go out here and they will promote a mouthpiece like a K. Michelle, who will sit there and talk about how men are no good. And we actually know that she's not saying white men are no good. She's actually saying black men are no good. And this is all about promoting, again, the demonization of the black man, and promoting the idea in people's minds that black men are no good. So when you listen to a K. Michelle, she is just another white supremacist mouthpiece out here, and she's designed to promote propaganda that promotes white supremacy. So that woman is someone who, you really, when you take her whole statement apart and you look at her backstory, you can see what this is all about. This is all about promoting an agenda to demonize black men and further perpetuate this gender war, which is designed to divide and conquer black men and black women and have them fighting each other while white supremacists make money in the background, just like they're making money in the background right here on platforms like YouTube and Facebook. They have literally financially incentivized your black man and your black woman's fighting of each other in this gender war, because a lot of these YouTubers, they will go out here and make these gender war videos in order to get views, and they will make these statements against black men and black women, all because they want to elevate themselves on this platform by getting subs and views, and elevate themselves by getting that ad revenue. That's why they will sit there and make these gender war videos hating black men and promoting hatred of black women, and talking about how no good, how black men are no good, and how black women are no good. And this type of media, again, it's designed to program ideas in your mind, making you not see each other as lovable, and not see each other as attractive and desirable, and not see each other as human beings, but as monsters. Because when I listen to some of the things men are saying about black women on Facebook, and some of the things black women say about black men on Facebook, they literally are denouncing each other. And there's so much hatred in there. It's just deeply troubling for me, because again, I listen to those statements and it reminds me so much of the Ku Klux Klan and your white supremacists. And it's literally like listening to a people parrot the same ideas and statements that white supremacists go out here and say about black people. So I look at this media out here. And what's really scary about it is this is not something being done by white people these days. Black people have been programmed to the point where they're now doing it themselves, and they are promoting these demonized images of self to each other. And this is troubling to see a black man talk about how bad black women are, and it's troubling to see black women talk about how bad black men are on these social media platforms. And to see it's really disturbing to me because it shows me how deep the self-hatred has been developed on these YouTube platforms and these social media platforms. And when you see a black man sitting there talking about how his own black woman is no good, and your black man your own black woman is talking about how bad black men are. This it's a really troubling thing because it shows you how deep the self hatred is in so many black people. And even worse than that is when you start to see your black woman sitting there talking about how black men are so no good that she has to explore her dating options outside of her race with your white men, your Hispanic men, your Asian men, your Arab men, your Indian men. And then you have your black man sitting there talking about how he needs to go get a passport and go overseas to go pursue relationships with foreign women. And what both of those people are doing, your swirlers and your passport black males, is they are practicing white supremacy because they are elevating another race of people and other races of people above black people. And when you listen to that behavior and you look at that behavior, that's self-hatred, plain and simple. And what's happened is because these people have imbibed so much propaganda, they believe that self-hatred is something positive, and they think that they can only find a way to find so-called love and happiness with people of other races. But the problem with both your swirler and your passport black male is that they don't see that the problem lies within themselves, and it is their perception of self that is leading them to not have any success in any sort of relationship, because when somebody cannot love themselves, then it is next to impossible for them to love others. And this is the big problem when people have a demonized perception of their opposite gender, is they think they can look for love from someone outside of their race. But the problem is it is their perception of self and their self-hatred that prevents them from being able to go out here and connect with another person and have a relationship with another person. Now, when I look at your swirler and your black male who talks about passports, I see the same frame of dysfunction because they're sitting there elevating people of other races above themselves. And I see people who put other people above themselves. And again, how can you have a relationship with someone when you're putting somebody above yourself? When you put somebody above yourself, basically what you're doing is deifying that person, and you're making that person into a god, and putting expectations on that person more than what they are capable of doing. And this is why many of your swirlers and many of your so-called passport black males still remain single, because they have unrealistic expectations of these people of other races, and they expect them to be so-called better than themselves. But when they find out how human they are and how flawed they are, this is why they wind up extremely disappointed. Now, when I take a critical examination of these people who have demonized black men and black women, I look at them and I still see how many of them are still single. on both sides, your swirler and your passport black male. They're still single, even though they have gone out here and pursued other people. But it's the way they pursue people because they don't see people as human beings. Because when you have a demonized frame of thinking, you don't see people as people. You don't see their humanity. Instead, what you see is people as objects because you, instead of you seeing people as human beings, you start to objectify people because it's all about what they can do for you, not about what you two can share together in a relationship. So you're people who have a demonized frame of thinking where they see black men and black women as enemies. They don't, it really changes their whole perception of all people. And instead of them seeing human beings as flawed creatures that are born in sin, they see one as better than the other, and again, this changes their perception of self, and they see the other person as better. And again, this is why they're so disappointed because once that person starts to show their humanity, then they don't want to go out here and deal with that humanity. And that's one of the things they struggle with is dealing with that humanity because when you put others above you, you're making them into gods. And again, no human being is a god. And this is something that when people demonize their own race and they put others above them, they deify white people, they deify Hispanic people, Asian people, Arab people, Indian people, and then they see them as better. But that really, it distorts their perception. Whereas somebody who sees human beings as human beings understands all human beings are flawed, and because they understand all human beings are flawed, they can have healthy relationships with other people. So this is one of the big problems when you have black people out here and they have this demonized mindset and they're hating black women. When you listen to them, they literally make black women out to be monsters. When you listen to some of these black males out here, and then you listen to some of these black females out here, they literally have each other as monsters. And what I'm seeing that's even scarier is that as they see the other person as a monster, we see more and more of them transforming into this monster. And this monster literally goes out of their way to promote this hate filled rhetoric against the opposite gender. And again, when they promote that hate filled rhetoric, it's like literally listening to a black Ku Klux Klansman or a black person who is talking points from a neo-Nazi. So when you listen to them, it's quite disturbing to just sit there and listen to them and listen to the things that they're saying, because when you all you have to do is go over to a white supremacist YouTube channel or a white supremacist website, and you can literally compare the talking points and see that there's almost the exact same talking points being directed at the opposite gender. When you see black men, they're sitting there talking about black women, and then you see these black women talking about black men. It's literally like watching white supremacist propaganda. And this is very dangerous for our young brothers and sisters out there to listen to this type of media, because if you sit there and listen to too much of this media, you will start to believe it. It's just like what the Nazi Party was doing back in the days of World War II. I mean, Adolf Hitler, I believe, said that if you tell a lie enough, people will start to believe it. And with this social media, we have heard this lie demonizing black men and black women told long enough that what's scary is we've got black men and black women starting to believe these lies about each other and starting to believe this propaganda promoted to divide black men and black women as the gospel truth. I mean, many of these YouTubers, they don't understand what they're doing, because when you promote these lies, all it does is promote more and more hatred of each other. And this promotion of hatred of each other. What it does is it teaches you to start believing that your black woman is no good, your black man is no good. And if you're hating each other, you're actually promoting self hatred as a social norm. And if you promote self hatred as a social norm, then it's literally next to the end for the black race. And if you program people's minds to believe that there is no hope, like I have heard from many people talking about how they don't feel like they can go out here and have relationships with black women or black men. This type of propaganda, again, it does damage to the minds out here. And this is why you have to avoid listening to this type of content. Now, many of the people who make this content, I believe a lot of these people, they have been hurt in the past by a person they wanted to go out here and date or have a relationship with. I believe that they were rejected by people in their personal lives, and they have not really coped with that loss or that rejection. And because they have not coped with that loss or that rejection or that failed relationship, this has them believing that black men or black women are the problem. Now, people go through failures in relationships. People get rejected all the time. People deal with failures in life all the time. And when you have coping skills, what you will do is you will make it about that individual, and you're not going to make it about the group. Now, about 10 years ago, when I was working at City College, I had gotten the civil service job. And because this black woman had lied and said that I was sleeping on the job going along with this professor, she went along with him and said I was sleeping on the job. It cost me a civil service job. Now, I could sit there and say all black women are liars based on this black woman, but I can't do that because I understand that that's about that individual black woman. I cannot go out here and demonize the entire race of sisters out here or the entire gender of black sisters out here. And this is something that I couldn't do because I feel that it wouldn't be right for me to judge other black women based on that black woman. So every black man who has been hurt, a lot of them, they do this. And some of these guys, they also do this because they had a bad relationship with their mother. A lot of these black males, especially the ones who come from single mother households, that's another reason why they're out here very angry at black women, is that they had this bad relationship with this mother of theirs. This mother was out here doing all sorts of stuff. And now they're angry because they were never able to have that healthy relationship with their mother. And because they couldn't have that relationship with their mother, they are angry at the collective of black women. So I'm seeing a lot of that as one of the issues that some of these black men have, as related to this anger and this demonization. They sit there and they've had this bad experience with their mother, and then you have all of this demon propaganda out here. So they see black women as this monster because they see their mother as a monster. And because they see their mother as a monster, they want to go out and believe other black women are monsters just like that mother they had. Instead of them putting that relationship in context and seeing that, yes, this was my mother, and my mother, was a deeply troubled woman and had issues. I need to put her in context and not blame other black women for my mother. Instead of these guys going to counseling and psychotherapy to deal with that, instead they demonize all black women, not understanding that that relationship is what happens is it literally makes the foundation for all of their failed relationships overall. Because when your black man has problems with his mother, then what happens is he starts to gravitate towards those other troubled women in the community. And when he goes out here and gravitates towards those troubled women in the community and those relationships fail, then that reinforces the idea in his mind that it's black women who are a problem, when in actuality, it has to do with the way he was raised, and it has to do with his perception of your black woman. Now, those mommy issues affect the black man and his demonized perception, and this is also reinforced by the media that he watches. And your black woman also has that same problem too, because a lot of black women, they have this idea that black men are no good based on the father issues a lot of them have. And a lot of them have these father issues due to the absence of a father, and in some cases they have these issues with men because the father was a poor model for manhood if he was there. And because they have this issue as related to their fathers, this is what leads to them demonizing black men. And it's this perception of the father and this negative image of the father that has them seeing your black man as a monster. And a lot of that also is reinforced in a single mother household in some cases by the single mother talking about your daddy ain't crap, N words ain't crap. These type of devaluing terms and demonized terms make a girl believe negative things about black men. Moreover, this is reinforced when you have your single mother going out here and having relationships with men who are not the father, and having a series of relationships with these so-called uncles, these so-called man, and these relationships again shape the way a child sees how men are and her perception of men. And this is one of the foundations that leads to the demonization of your black man in the eyes of your black woman. And because she sees this demonization going on in her mind, she starts gravitating towards these dysfunctional males. And what happens is they have a bad experience with that black male, and that reinforces in their mind the idea that your black man is a monster in her eyes. And both of them are both hurt by these experiences. And because they're hurt by these experiences of the single mother and the lack of a father, this really shapes their perception of the opposite sex and their relationships with the opposite sex. So when you see a lot of these people who are sitting there making these videos talking about the no good black man, black woman, all this stuff, they come from a place of a lot of hurt. And sadly, after 10 years of these videos, we're not really getting any sort of understanding as related to moving forward. A lot of the black men and the black women, because they're demonizing these images of self and these perceptions of self, it's become one big echo chamber. And because it's become one big echo chamber, people just are hearing the same things over and over again, and they're just going over the same things over and over again. And that's literally the definition of insanity, when you're doing the exact same thing and expecting a different result. So I listen to a lot of this demonization rhetoric, and it's literally something that can make you insane if you listen to too much of it. Because if you imbibe too much of this social media, where you're hearing these demonized statements, it really warps your perception of what black men and black women are. Let's see. So that really messes with your mind, and it messes with your whole frame of thinking. And a lot of these guys, you're sitting there thinking that this is going to be constructive, but it's actually being destructive. So a lot of black men and a lot of black women, they don't understand that a lot of these people who make these videos, they have a demonized perception of self. They have a demonized idea of self. And it's that demonized perception and idea of self that really twists a lot of their videos, their content, and their ideas, and it makes them believe that, oh, I'm promoting something to help black people, but you're actually hurting black people, because when you're going out here speaking bad about one gender, which is black men speaking bad about black women speaking bad about black men, what that's doing is it's promoting hatred of self and hatred of each other. And this is not something that is a healthy and constructive discourse. Now, when I came to YouTube back in 2009, I saw, I thought that black men were going to present a argument saying that, hey, we're here to refute this false narrative presented by people like Oprah Winfrey, who were promoting this narrative of black men being no good. And I thought they were going to go out here and present a platform on the YouTube platform and social media, a discourse to show that black men were going to be capable, responsible, and making efforts to take leadership. Unfortunately, over the last 10 years, as I've been on this social media platform, I've seen black men participate in the same demonized rhetoric and sit there and talk in this demonized rhetoric and believe that this is okay. And in some cases, some of these channels, it's literally like watching the Oprah Winfrey show, but it's the Oprah Winfrey show with black men out here. And because it's like your Oprah Winfrey show, it's literally like the same talking points being presented to black men out here. And it's literally like watching the male version of the Oprah Winfrey show. So when I watch a lot of those channels, it's literally becoming like a male version of the Oprah Winfrey show. And and just like your Oprah Winfrey show was out here promoting misandry and hatred of black men, we now are starting to see a lot of misogyny being promoted about black women. So I'm not seeing where we're working towards a constructive discourse where we start working on some healing in the black community, because as long as black men and black women see each other as demons, we don't see each other as humans and start working towards a constructive human solution. So that's one of the things I have a problem with a lot of the black male YouTubers out here who make these videos, and the black women who make these videos. I have a problem with them because this is not working towards a healing discourse where we bring black men and black women together. Instead, this demonization, all it does is further divide black men and black women against each other and have us fighting each other and have us going back and forth. Yeah, if you guys want to hit the like button, because I got 74 in the chat, got 35 likes. Let's get that up to 50. And if you want to donate to the super chat or the Patreon, you can do that as well. And I'd really appreciate if you guys would pick up some of my books, like John Haynes, A Conversation with Death, Isis, All That Glitters, Esteem, Goddess of, and John Haynes, Dark Succubus. All these books are available in paperback and Kindle formats. And if you guys could head over to Amazon.com to pick these books up, I'd really appreciate it. And if you have Kindle or Kindle Unlimited, you can pick up all of these books for free. But I look at this great divide between black men and black women, and this is something that, again, is getting worse instead of getting better. And when you have black men and black women elevating non-black men and white men, that's something really troubling, because it shows how deep the self-hatred is. Because when you have people demonizing their opposite gender to the point where they elevate other people, that's really problematic because it shows there is no self-love in either black men or black women out there, because once you elevate somebody of another race higher than you, then you have a person whose mind is deeply damaged, and they don't understand how damaged their mind is, because you don't see white people elevating black people above themselves. You don't see Hispanic people elevating black people above them. You don't see Asian people elevating black people above them. You don't see Arab people elevating black people above them. And you don't see Indian people doing that either. If you look at their media elevates their own people, and their media promotes their own image before they promote our image. But if you look at black media, what we do is we will go out here and promote other people's images above our own, promote other people's ideas above our own, and promote other people's value as higher than our own. And because we promote other people's value above our own, what happens is this shows how low the self esteem is in the black mind. Because your black man, because he elevates other people above himself, when he goes out here and goes and talks about he wants foreign women, and then your black woman goes out here and talks about how she wants to swirl. Again, this shows how deep the self-hatred is in both the mind in the black man and the black woman, and that all that does is create this whole is all based on this demonization platform. Because when you demonize your own people, and you see your own people as an enemy, then you think other people are better than you. And again, this is all about how you just dehumanize yourself. And when you dehumanize yourself, then nobody sees your value because you don't see your value. And this is a big problem that a lot of black people aren't really examining, because they are so caught up in the rhetoric of a lot of these gender wars on social media, just like that female was trying to promote when she was out here and said that men are no good. What they want to do is promote this idea of that black men are no good, and she wanted to demonize black men. But I hear that same rhetoric again from black men, and again, this back and forth is not a constructive course for black men and black women. And it's propaganda, again, designed to promote the hatred of each other. And again, this is how people make their money, whether it be your YouTubers on Google making ad dollars, or whether it be your black women making their money by selling you books, movies, TV shows. It's a money making platform, and that money making platform allows people to profit at our expense, because while they are waging war against us and creating this rift in the black community, they take 97% of the black dollars out of the black community and keep it poorer at our expense. Because as they sell us this guns and butter, what happens is we're using their guns and butter and enriching them, instead of making efforts to empower ourselves. I'm gonna I'm gonna get it ready to wrap up the stream, but I would really appreciate it if you guys would head over to Amazon.com and pick up the books in the SJS Direct 2019 catalog. John Haynes' Dark Succubus, where the man who rules the world is tempted by a sultry succubus. I really would appreciate if you pick this book up on Amazon. It's available in paperback and Kindle formats. And if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read Dark Succubus for free. John Haynes, A Conversation with Death. This one is available in paperback and Kindle formats. Isis, All That Glitters, where the goddess next door takes on a bikini-clad bank robber in an action-packed ISIS series adventure. This one is also available on Amazon in paperback and Kindle formats. And if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read this one for free. And I have Esteem, Goddess of, where the Hell's Aspiring Angel takes on this demonic dominatrix. And I would, again, this is available in paperback and Kindle formats. And if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read this for free. So you can get all of these books on Amazon right now. And I have a whole bunch of other books on Amazon as well. I want to thank everybody for coming to the live stream, and I hope you'll be coming out to the next stream.